Scudetto race is still on, and we're back on here on the Calcio, guys. Adriano is back from Italy. Nicholas, Gianni can't make it this week, but we do still have our Napoli representative, our good friend, Raffa Rispo from the Napoli Rant, the Raff and Raff Rant. Raff, it's been a while. How's it going, my man?
Guys, it's been great, man, and it's good to see the two of you again. It's unfortunate Johnny couldn't be here, but um it's been a while. It's been a long time since
Too
you
long, too long.
probably needed some Napoli representation, right? I mean,
Yeah, you got the Scudetto flag behind. We had you a lot on that season. We were
yeah,
talking
well, there's a
before.
reason for that, right?
Talking before the pod, how last year wasn't so easy for Napoli fans. There was a lot to talk about on the podcast here, but they're right here, Raf. Hey, listen, might as well. I know Adri, you probably wanted to talk before we get into it, just to say hi.
Hi, I'm back. I'm back. A quick trip to Italy. Yeah, my cousin Bianca's wedding last week, so just came back trying to get adjusted back to the to reality at the time zone now here in North America. But I'll have you back and happy to have Rafa on again. And like we said off air, man, it's been way too long, so it's always a pleasure. But I think we should dive right into it, Rafa.
Let's go.
Just crazy season. Antonio Conte, Napoli battling for first yet again. This match day they had that chance of getting a point closer to Inter at the top, but it wasn't to be. Just I guess we haven't had you on this season, I don't believe so. I just want to maybe get your thoughts of Napoli's season so far, and obviously we'll get into the nitty gritty going later on into the show. But just what have you made of this Napoli under Conte and where they are right now? And it's the business end of this.
You
You're muted.
Adriano's audio,
Muted.
your audio just
Yeah.
either muted yourself or
We'll let you go, Raf, while Adri figures that out.
yeah. So to answer the question of how I feel about the season, that's kind of like a loaded question, I think, right? Because there's so many mixed sentiments, that I'm going through, and me being one of the most positive, you know, Napoli fan that I know, right? Like optimistic. It's one of those things where like even at 3 points behind Inter with 7 games left, normally you'd be thrilled about a season like that. But there's something about this season that even though the Scudetto race is as tight as it is, doesn't feel the same as the Scudetto season that we blew the whole league out of the water, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe because it's been 33 years since we had won it, and finally here's the season. My father and I were making flight plans at the end of January. It was a lock, even for this most superstitious Napoli fan. Now that it's an exciting race, define exciting. Are we playing very exciting football? Not really. Is Inter the Inter of old of last season, or that also steamrolled through the season? Not really. So it's one of those seasons where, like, yes, I'm happy to be back in second place. Antonio Conte came in. We got Buongiorno, which helped the defense out. We, unfortunately lost Osimhen. We lost Kvara in the middle of the season, but we gained experience and we went a certain different way about the mercato in the summer than we normally do, right? Signing older players, signing players for on a free, Spinazzola free, Lukaku 30 and over, spending the money on McTominay, you know what I mean? You look at that and you say to yourself, okay, as compared to last season, we're right back to where we need to be. A lot of pundits out there will pretty much like talk about how Napoli were in 10th last year and look at what Conte's doing with the 10th place side. Well, that same 10th place side also won the Scudetto, blowing the whole league out of the water the season before, right?
Yeah.
That team wasn't very different than the team that won the Scudetto. And the season before that competed for the Scudetto. So what was the real team? Was the real team this team that Spalletti had, or was the real team from 10th place? Nevertheless, Conte brought that our status back from 10th to 2nd, but we are missing the dynamism of Osimhen, and I would say Kvara as well. The defense we fixed, but there's something very boring about this team. As excited as we all are about this race, it's not capturing my heart. It's not capturing my emotions the way. Now, granted, I went to Napoli Inter. We'll talk about that later. Maybe Biz and I took a trip. We did some work. It was fun. We went to Napoli Inter, and the place was just electric. So I've been hearing from family friends that go to these games week in week out at the Maradona that it's the same electricity every week, even though the product on the pitch is let's to compare. You could compare the stats of the two seasons, the Spalletti season and the Conte season, but there's no comparing the excitement of the team. Everybody was excited to watch Napoli, and now it's come down a rung in the excitement factor. Does winning a title have to be exciting? No. So to sum up my answer, I feel better about the season than after match day one when we lost 3-0 to Verona. We're like, oh shit, here we are again. But I still don't feel the same way as I felt the way we could end up winning the Scudetto for sure. And I'll probably change my mind to be excited and happy again. But even at this stage last 2 seasons ago when we were like 5 weeks from the season and we won the Scudetto, and even before we clinched it, every game I was excited to watch, even though we were like it was done, and I was always still excited to watch it. Now you watch it and you're like, this is one point at the Maradona where I was sitting here like hands in my everybody else is around me up and moving, and I'm just like, these guys are killing me. So hopefully that paints a picture of how at least my season, like I see positives and negatives on this team, and I'm quick to point the positives out, but like the negatives, although probably very minute, they are affecting me for some reason this year. So I don't know. It's crazy.
So sounds like a typical Antonio Conte ride. Look, I was just
you're definitely familiar with it, right?
Exactly. I was just thinking back the 2011-12 Juve season. Sure, they went undefeated, bit different in that regard, but they won the Scudetto by 4 points over Milan. They needed that game with the controversial no goal against Milan to pretty much help them win the Scudetto. And you look back on that team, they had 23 wins and 15 draws. Yeah, again, they were undefeated, but 15 draws. Not exactly the most exciting team. 68 goals for, 20 goals against. That's Antonio Conte, footprint. The only difference that the next 2 seasons Juve blew the league out of the water with Conte. But
can I ask you a question? I'm sorry to cut you off, but while we're there, right? With that experience, right? Obviously, Juventus was the first Scudetto since Calciopoli. You came back to SerieA. You guys had, a really good season year one, but then year 2 and 3 or whatever it was, you guys were dead in the water, 7th place. We were killing you guys. It was great. Conte comes in, you're undefeated, but you got these 15 draws. The play style is what it is. The players on the field you guys weren't a very deep team. You were a compact team. You did it. When you did it, How happy were you? I mean, of course, you're back to you're back to the glory now, and it kickstarted a 9 season in a row. You didn't know that at the time, but how excited were you for that Scudetto as compared to other Scudetti? Um, sort of being in this Conte situation like we are kind of right now, minus the 4 losses.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't watch Juve as much as I do now, just because back then it was a bit harder to
Of course.
watch.
Also,
Yeah, we're also younger. But for me, like, first of all, I know how important that Scudetto was to the fan base, especially, like you said, the first one since Calciopoli. But for me personally, my most favorite Scudetto was the 2015-16, just because of the game versus Inter, the 3-2, the
Yeah.
comeback win.
Yeah.
So, I started watching religiously in the 14-15 season. So I got to see 6 of the 9 Scudetti in a row. Obviously, I enjoyed every single one, but for me, that one was the favorite because it was exciting. There were other Scudetti where, it was more of a formality again.
Right.
No doubt, I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed, waking up every Sunday morning, Saturday morning, watching them. But I understand that feeling, Raf, especially. I don't want to say this arrogantly, but when you've seen your team win so many Scudettis after a while, it does get a bit boring. As you're a fan at this point, I would absolutely love to see them win the Scudetto again.
I 100%.
That first one is always special.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry to throw you off track. You
No
brought
worries.
up Conte, and I also forgot how old I am, so it dates me, man.
No.
Don't worry. You're not, Rafa. I don't think you're that much older than us. You think about technology, and like 2011, 12, it was so much harder I know there probably was streams, but
it was we in the States, we had a mean to watch it. We were on beIN Sports at the time. So
okay,
it wasn't every match. It was maybe like 4 matches a week, sort of like how Rye used to be, right? The old Rye International. But eventually that stream ended up going with like a full slate of fixtures, and then they did the ESPN, and then now with CBS. But there was a way to watch. I just turned 42 years old, so you guys say I'm not that much older. I am. I'm pretty old. So 2011, 12, I remember like the back of my hand, the whole thing. So, sorry about that.
all good. Well, while we're on the topic, it's funny because the Juve games I would watch were pretty much Champions League games then, because they were on cable TV, they were on TSN. But I remember one game, I think it was the 2013. I think either the round of 16 or quarterfinals. They were playing Bayern.
Yeah.
And I remember being so excited, coming home from school, wanting to go turn on the TV, and the sports channel TSN had like some stupidity on, like curling or something. And I remember being pissed because I really wanted to watch the Juve game. But different times.
Yes, very different.
Back to Napoli. Interesting weekend because Inter tied Parma. It was on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. And then so Napoli went into their Monday night game knowing that they could, make ground on Inter. They had this huge opportunity thanks to Parma, but obviously they weren't playing an easy opponent. They're playing away. They're playing a good team. They're, I guess we could say a surprisingly good season for Bologna again. And they come out and, a tie. It was Anguissa, and then, for Bologna, it was Ndoye later on. So they had the lead for quite a bit. They had the lead for quite a bit. But Rafa, what did you make of the game? And would you say this was a missed opportunity?
110% missed opportunity. It's one of those games where you go in to the game and a draw is a respectable and good enough result, especially since Inter drew to Parma on Saturday, especially since Inter were up 2-0 against Parma and squandered the lead. I think it's obvious Inter's mind is elsewhere right now, especially with yesterday's win against Bayern. But I was very, very, very upset with the way Napoli just allowed Bologna to get back into this game. So one of the things that really upsets me about this Napoli team this season is that they have an inability to play two halves. Something inside of them, they blow their whole load in the first half, and then in the second half they just kind of stay back and defend no matter the score. And it's super frustrating. Um and I had said to Ralph Biz on last week's edition of the Napoli Rant that I would be okay with a draw. He was not having it. He was like, we need to beat Bologna no matter what. We need to make a statement after we beat Milan. We need to beat Bologna.
Yeah.
I was more practical. Like, look, if we can come away with a draw and hopefully Parma take points off of Inter, then we'll be okay. But it's that second half just. I mean, it's one thing to do it against a team like, I don't know, Udinese or Lecce or whatever. But but this is Bologna, and it's funny to say that because normally Bologna is a cakewalk, right? I mean, I remember when we beat them 7-1 once. But this team is no joke. Bologna is no joke, and you're right, Nick. You're right, man. A surprise is an understatement. After they got rid of Xerxes and Calafiori, and then Thiago Motta. I know they brought Italiano in, but I mean, I was even sort of down on Italiano at Fiorentina. He was sort of slipping. This guy came in and completely revolutionized that team. They did so well in keeping that form for Serie A. I wish they did a little better in the Champions League, but you can't really fault them for that. They beat Dortmund that one week, which was crazy. But was it Dortmund or was it?
Yeah, it was Dortmund.
Yeah, it was Dortmund,
And
right?
who's now playing like
And they
now in
drew
the
to
Champions
Bayern
League.
Munich, didn't they? Draw to Bayern Munich as well.
Down, I don't remember. Potentially.
Bologna.
Potentially, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. I know they got some big results at the end when it was too late.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, I don't know if it had something to do with Conte not being on the touchline because he was serving his suspension, or if it had something to do with just like, the way that they've been playing, because they did it to Milan. They almost let Milan back in, right? And I just think that the inability for them to shut down, like close, step on the neck, like we mentioned in this week's edition of the rant, to step on the neck is going to be the downfall of this team this season. It will be the reason Napoli don't win a Scudetto, is because they're not ruthless enough, and they need to find that ruthlessness in them for these next games. I mean, I would venture to say the next 3 games are the most important games in Napoli's season. Home against Empoli, away to Monza, and then home against Torino. Has to win every game, in my opinion. But as far as the game goes, the way Napoli played in the first half was beautiful. They had chances, they had shots, they had squandered a lot of opportunities, but still they held Udinese to very minimal chances. I think the end of the half was their best chance. And Anguissa was just beasting it in the first half. You saw that coast to coast that he did, stealing the ball, taking it down, getting past Skorupski, taking Skorupski out of the game essentially, and just tapping it in like a boss. And I thought we were going to capitalize on that. Even in the second half, Napoli defended and did well defensively, except for when they let Bologna in and let them have the opportunity. That run by who was it that assisted the cross? Odegaard. That run by Odegaard. As soon as I saw Odegaard run past come si chiama, Di Lorenzo, I said this is going to result in a goal. And what happened? Ndoye's insane touch. back heel flick, whatever that was, just killed us, and we never recovered from that because they kept pressing and pressing, and that's what scares me. The result is a good result at the end of the day. We stay 3 points behind. I always maintain this. If Napoli can stay a touching distance to Inter, one of these weeks we're going to capitalize. But when's it going to happen? I know it's Bologna, and I know if you ask me which game would I be okay with dropping points in from Milan on to the end of the season, it would have been Bologna, right? So that's what happened. We better not drop points, especially in the next 3 games. We better not drop points.
Yeah, no, listen, Raf, I think you summed it up perfectly, and even not to mention, like you're saying, like the tale of two halves with Napoli. It seems like it's almost week in and week out, especially lately. But like when they were like, would you say, just to bounce off and to echo off to that point, those points, like even at the point where
Adri, again, your
We
audio
lost
cut
your
out.
audio
Maybe
again.
maybe just try like muting and unmuting. It seemed like that worked last time. I don't know what's up. You come back from Italy and you bring these bad vibes to your electronics.
Well, where in Italy was he in?
Uh, in Tuscany.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
You need to be sued. That's not a knock on Tuscany. I actually really
No,
like
Tuscany's beautiful. Florence is my favorite city in Italy.
yo, this mic, man, I don't know what's going on tonight. This mic, I don't know. But
That's okay. From the beginning.
It's like Napoli. It has a good first half, falls off in the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
half.
It's been bugging since we came on. Before, nothing. Now that we're on, it's bugging.
No, that's how it usually goes. You know
Oh
that.
my god! But even like I was saying, like even how Napoli kind of like let Inter back into, they gave up first place. They let them back into first place. Now been playing kind of catch up ever since. Is that something else that's attributed to this season? Kind of like you're saying, how the tale of two halves and all that.
Yeah.
Like what do you? Because like I thought once they had like a good enough cushion and they could have held other teams at bay. They're only playing once a week, and preseason, I had picked Napoli as my Scudetto winner based on the fact of Conte being in one game a week and having his partner in crime Lukaku up front as well. Just them losing that step and giving Inter, not I want to say giving, but like allowing them to crawl back into first place and now having to play catch up in this business end of the season. Is that a bit of does that hurt as a fan, Rafa?
Yeah, it does, because we had the lead for what, 18 weeks of the season, right?
Something
And
like that.
of course, Napoli relinquished the lead in the league the week before Biz and I decide to fly to Italy and go cover the game. That would totally happen.
Of course.
And it did happen. And once again, we're going back to the inability to close the deal, right? It was against Lazio, where we were up because we had just beaten Juve and Atalanta, or Atalanta and Juve in that order, right? Like then we had to play against I think it was Lazio and Roma. I don't remember exactly the order, but it was the game against Lazio where we were down 1-0, but came back to take the lead 2-1, and then squandered that lead once again with an 85th minute goal by Dia, ruining things for us. Then the draw to Udinese, which was really a shame, but it was off a really, really nicely taken shot by Ecklenberg. And that was rough as well. Then the draw to Roma. I think the Roma draw was a very big disappointment because there was no time left and we just let them back in. If you take any one of those 3 games and turn it into a Napoli win, we're singing a different tune here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But because it happened in all those games, and then we can't get a result against Como, which was pathetic. Not taking anything away from Como, but we should have been able to beat them.
Mhm.
Then not being able to even score a goal against Venezia is also completely pathetic.
Absurd.
Absurd. And to top it all off, we went from going on a 10-game winning streak or unbeaten streak with 7 wins and 3 draws, right?
Yeah.
To a 5-game a 5-game winless streak at the Inter draw, right?
Mhm.
Just like that. And now you're talking about a team that we could have gained ground on more than once since then and still haven't been able to do it. So again, it's Bologna. Credit to Bologna. They're doing a fantastic job. I think they're going to finish 4th place this season. I really do.
Okay.
Atalanta can't buy a goal now, and Juve still question for me. But I feel like Bologna get to that 4th spot. But knowing that Inter is within, reach, you need to take advantage of that. We're going to have that again this weekend. We're going to know what Inter did. I feel like if Inter wins and we play after them, we already know, pressure's off. We just go out there and have fun and do what we do. And that's what happened against Milan, right? Inter had just beaten Udinese. Udinese was trying to come back too. It was a tight game. They could have done it. They didn't do it. Pressure's off. Let's go kick the shit out of Milan now, right? But the pressure's back on when Inter drop the points. Napoli don't finish the game. That's all I ask for them is to play half of another half and finish the freaking
2
game
first
off.
halves.
You know what
They
I
need
mean?
2
Yeah,
first halves.
exactly. Give me 1.5 first halves and I'm good.
That's it.
So that's the thing is not where's the goals going to come from, because we know where they're coming from. They're coming from Lukaku. They're coming from the midfield. Not can we do it? Can we? Okay, yeah, we give up a goal a game now, and before that we were like the best. I mean, still think we're the best defense in the league, but we were ruthless on defense. Now we're letting teams score on us. That's an issue too. But my thing is just finishing it off. This Antonio Conte is so animated on the touchline. I don't know how his teams don't just finish a freaking game off, and how he doesn't have them that motivated. It can't be a motivation thing. It could be a fitness thing, right? I mean, none of the injuries that Napoli had sustained, aside from I don't know the prognosis on McTominay. He did get hurt during the game. I think he'd be the first player that we would miss due to injury all season long because of something that happened in a game. Everybody has been injured on training, pre-match training. Everybody. That's another thing to think about is we have a thin squad and we're training like madmen because we're not playing 2 games a week. So can that cost us as well? And I think that's what's been costing us some of these games is just the fact that we're winded. Conte doesn't really make substitutions a lot. You know all about that. And something's got to give here. Something's got to give.
We did get one question on social media. Pretty much answered it. Napoli chances on Scudetto. But if you had to give a number, Rafa.
First of all, I was going to say hi to my man, Michelangelo. That's my dude right there. Chances on the Scudetto. I mean, if you want me to give you a percentage, I'm going to say it's 50-50. I think it's right down the middle. I was going to give the slight edge to Inter, but I can't do that. I can't do that in good faith. Give the slight edge to Inter. The reason why is because look at the next 3 games Napoli play, like I mentioned, right? Empoli, Monza, Torino.
Yeah.
In that time frame, Inter will have played Bayern Munich, Cagliari, Bayern Munich again, Bologna, Milan in the semifinal, and then Roma. If they don't drop points within those three league games with all those other cup games sandwiched in between those games, then Inter are going to win the Scudetto. Firmly believe it. If they drop points, whether Napoli rebound or not, I still think Napoli have a chance because especially if they beat Bayern Munich next week too, or they hold on to qualified for the semifinals, which looks like it might happen. Then Inter are in serious trouble. I still think that the fact that Napoli don't have to play in between is a very big advantage for us. I know some people have come out and said, that's not a thing. It's not real advantage. It's just one of those things that someone might take into consideration. Others think it is an advantage. I still think because of the fact that we're still in touching distance, we're still within 3 points. That's one game. All we need is to recover one game. That's it. And then we're in the driver's seat. So I'm going to say 50-50 because in Inter's for on the Inter side, like to speak up on them, they have a fantastic team. No matter how they're playing, they're a great side, right? Who's deep and can get the job done. And I said it was annoying how Inter have become Juve like, in which, don't worry, this guy's not scoring. Darmian's good for a goal here, or freaking Bisek is going to score a goal out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like they can find the goal. So I'm not worried about that with them. Like, I think they still have as good a chance as Napoli does, even with the congested schedule, because it's Inter and there's such a deep squad. And yeah, that's I think it's the fitting two teams to fight as close for a Scudetto as they are, right? Like, Napoli destroyed the league in 23, Inter destroyed the league in 24. Now the close race is those two teams. Who's the better team, right? I think that's a pretty interesting storyline as well.
Oh, sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
I was just make a point of there.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but if you're gonna make it, talk about better two teams, I think Inter, the depth that they have kind of helps because of help them with the amount of games they play. I understand it's Champions League and Scudetto race. They need to put their best 11 out for both games, but if there's one area in which Inter is better, is definitely that depth. When you get to Coppa Italia, maybe Milan, Adrian, maybe you will be happy that they might advance in Champions League, and they might not play their best 11 in the Coppa Italia semifinal. When is that, by the way? Because they already played the first leg. The second leg is the end of April,
Easter,
right?
no?
That's in 2 weeks.
I think it's after Easter.
Yeah, it's after Easter.
Weeks.
Yeah, because it's true, because the Champions League this week, next week, and then the week after Easter is the other
23rd, I believe.
That's it.
But because it's Milan. See, that was my other point that I made on the show. Because it's Milan. If it was any team other than Milan, maybe maybe if it was Juventus too, Inter and Juve is the rivalry, but the fact that Inter don't have a win against Milan at all this season yet, 4 points in the league for Milan versus just the one for Inter, and Milan beat them in the Supercoppa final. So not only did they cause them to lose a trophy, albeit small. Everybody wants to win trophies. You saw how disappointed Inter were, right? Do you really think Inter want Milan to knock them out of the Coppa Italia semifinal as well? Like, playing 2 games in the same stadium together? Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no chance, in my opinion. The not just the fans that want it, the players don't want Milan to beat them. Whether they win the Coppa Italia or not, Inter, there's no shot that Inter are going to let Milan just roll all over them in the Coppa Italia just because it's the Coppa Italia. That's a big deal, I think, to the players, to the coaches, to the staff. It's still a big deal, in my opinion. So for me, that's why I agree 100% with you, Nicholas, what you said about how they're built for the 3 tournaments. They're built with the depth, but they're also a little injured. And I know some of their players are coming back now and stuff like that. That's fine. But it's literally double the games that Napoli have to play in the same time frame. So somewhere they're gonna falter. Somewhere. And I don't think they're gonna beat Bologna at their home. They also are gonna have a really hard time against Roma, who are the friggin' informed team of Serie A, right? I mean, those are two back-to-back games that if Napoli don't win while they drop points there, then I don't think Napoli win the Scudetto.